So in the last video, we added the basic jumping mechanic and got the character to go up in the air, but there was that problem of a player potentially being able to use this mechanic to be able to fly through the level and go beyond all of the obstacles that we put in their way. Okay, so we need to actually limit the jumping, and how we're going to do that is we're going to actually identify to Unity what the ground is, so it can then detect whether our character is on the ground or not. So if it's not on the ground, that they can't jump. Okay, so our first step in doing that is to actually use the tag function. Okay, now I'm going into my ground object, which is my lovely colourful platform there. And in the inspector, you'll notice a tag property. Okay, that's pre-populated with several different types of tag, but I'm going to add a custom tag to that. Okay, by hitting plus, and I'm just going to pop in a label of ground. If I go back to my object, I'll then be able to go and pick my ground tag. Okay, now anything that I want to act as ground is going to have a ground tag. Okay, otherwise this jumping mechanic won't work properly. Okay, now if we go back into my script in Visual Studio, I now need to add in some extra properties. Okay, first one is a Boolean variable. Okay, so a true or false, which is going to be a public Boolean, and I'm going to call this is grounded. Nice and simple, is grounded. Okay, what I'm going to do in Unity, in the script rather, is I'm going to suggest what to do to suggest that it is grounded and what to do if it isn't grounded. So that what's going to cause this to be true and what's going to cause this to be false. And we'll be able to see that Boolean value changing as we move between contact with different objects in the inspector inside Unity if we want to check it. Okay, so I've set up that Boolean. So public bool is grounded. Is grounded is just a name. You could use a different name if you wish. I am then going to set up two new methods. To set up new methods, I'm going to do this inside the brackets. So I'm just going to call this a void on collision enter 2D. Okay, that's a special method that is there for detecting and doing stuff when a collision is detected as starting. And I'm going to call that an on-collision enter 2D with the properties collision 2D and collision inside the brackets. Okay, now as I'm going through this, but basically what I'm going to do now is I'm going to say when it enters a collision with the ground object, then change my is grounded to true. So I'm going to do an if statement. If the collision with the game object with a tag that is equal to, and that is a double equals there. Okay, so if the collision dot game object dot tag, so the tag of the game object that is in this collision is ground, then what I want to do is I want to say that my is grounded value is got to change to true. Okay, so that means that when I hit the ground, then my is grounded value changes to true. And then after that, I'm going to add in another void on collision exit 2D this time, with collision 2D and collision in the brackets. So you can see there that means when I leave this collision, and I'm going to use exactly the same coding. If the collision dot game object dot tag is equal to, with double equals, ground, then what I want it to do this time is to say, is grounded, is this time false. Okay. What I've got now is the ability for my script to determine whether is grounded is true or false. So next I'm going to need to do something with that. Okay, so if I now go back to where I've got my jumping mechanic, where I've got my up force being added, what I now need to do is I need to nest this inside another if to say that if is grounded is true, then we can use these values in the if. Okay, so that means that by its very nature, if is grounded is false, that will basically ignore the pressing of the up arrow and adding the up force. Okay, so I mean that if we're in the air, then we're not able to do that. Okay, so I'm just going to add myself a little bit of space around this. I'm going to say if is grounded is true with a double equals, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that bracket out. I'm going to nestle that in a little bit. And then after that last bracket, I'm going to pop in my closing bracket for my new if. So I've now got my original if nested inside a new if, which means that this set of commands will only work if is grounded is equal to true. Don't forget about that closing bracket being after our closing bracket of the original if. Okay, now saving all of that and going back to Unity, what we should now find, as long as our ground object is tagged as ground, when we press play, we should be able to still move left and right, still jump, but if we continue pressing the jump key, the only time it will repeat the jump is when it reaches the ground again. So if I press that while it's in the air, it's not going to go and fly. Okay, so common little errors with this one tends to be forgetting to tag the floor objects. Okay, so have a go.